Hi, welcome to this week's Start to Finish Sunday video. I apologize for the extra noise in today's video. I've got the air conditioner running right next to my desk because it is so hot here. So wherever you are, I hope you're keeping cool and enjoying your summer. And thanks so much for joining me for today's card. This is the card that we're going to make today. And we're going to be using the Cycle Celebration stamp set, which is one of the brand new sets from the new catalog, and I think the set is just so cute. And we're going to be using the bicycle image today. The designer paper that I'm using today is from the I Am Me designer paper collection, and that's where I got my color palette from. So we're going to be pulling the colors out of the designer paper. And actually on the card that I'm going to make for you today, I'm going to use, instead of the stripe pattern, I'm going to use one of the different patterns in the collection. So let's get started. I'm going to start by doing my stamping, and I'm going to stamp the bicycle image using my Real Red ink. And this is just a scrap of Whisper White here because we're going to cut it out with the oval framelits. Okay, and then I'm just going to position the framelit right where I want it, and let's see. I'm going to leave a little bit of space at the bottom because that's where I'm going to be putting my greeting. So I'm going to put it a little bit up towards the top, and then I'm just going to take a Post-it note and use that to help me keep the die down, and then I'll run this through my Big Shot. So here is my bicycle image all cut out and ready to go, and now I want to show you a cool tip using the framelits. So these are the oval framelits, and the regular just sort of geometric shape framelits come in these great graduated sizes. But sometimes you still don't find the size that you want. You can see here, this would be the next size up, the next die up. And if I layer that on there, that's not really quite the look that I want on this card. It's a little bit more of a border than I want. So let me show you a really cool tip for how you can get a smaller border when you're matting your framelits together. So this is the same die that I used to cut my bicycle image out with. And you can see the cutting edge is right on the very inside edge of your die. So I'm just going to take a regular piece of Pool Party cardstock, and I'm going to place my die so that the cutting edge is up, so the flat side is against my cardstock. Then I'm just going to take a pencil and trace all around the outside edge of the same die that I used to cut that bicycle image out. And then I can just use my paper snips to carefully cut along that line that I drew. And so then you can see that we get the perfect shaped mat, and you have a little bit of a smaller border. So that is the look that I was going for. Let me just show you again. This is the next size up die. That's what that looks like. And this is the custom one that we made. So it's just a little bit of a different look for your project. Now before I adhere these together, I'm going to put some ribbon in between the two layers. So I'm just going to put some snail adhesive across the center of my Pool Party piece. And then I have a piece of the new Chevron Ribbon. I love this stuff. It is so cool. And this is in the Crushed Curry color. Now the yellow that's in the designer paper is actually So Saffron, but in the ribbon especially, and I find that the Crushed Curry and the So Saffron are very similar in tone. So I'm just going to layer this across my pool party oval, and then I'll trim it down in a bit. And I'll put some dimensionals on the back of my bicycle image. And then I'll just center that over top of the pool party oval. Okay. And now I can trim my ribbon down. I just want a little bit. Okay, just like that. Now I can put my embellishment aside for a moment, and I'm going to work on my card base. So the base card itself is Calypso Coral, and this is cut at 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. I have a 5 1/4 by 4 piece of Whisper White that I've already embossed with the Chevron's embossing folder. And I'm just going to adhere this to my card base. Remember to always use a little extra adhesive when you're adhering embossed cardstock. So I will just center and stick that to my card base. Okay, now I have a strip of the I Am Me designer paper, and this measures 2.5 by 4. And I'm just going to adhere this towards the left-hand side of the white piece. That looks pretty good. Now I'm taking one of the tea lace doilies, and I gotta say I'm kind of obsessed with these at the moment. I'm doing a lot of cards that have these doilies on them lately. But I'm just going to cover the center portion with snail. And then the center portion is pretty much the exact size, the exact same width as my designer paper. So I'm just going to center that, just like that. And then my little bicycle piece is going to go right on there. So I'm just going to attach that with some snail as well. Make sure that's nicely centered. Okay. Looks good. And now we just have to add the sentiment. So for my sentiment, I have a small piece of Whisper White. This measures just a little bit more than 1/4 of an inch wide, but it's not quite 3/8 of an inch. Just going to use some temporary adhesive to adhere that to my work surface. And I'm using the thank you sentiment here from Delightful Dozen. And I'm going to be stamping that in Calypso Coral ink. So I already have it all set on my Stamp-A-Majig. I'm just going to get that lined up properly. And I'm going to come in here and cut a little banner end. This is going to go right here on my card, just like that. So I have the faceted buttons here, and I'm going to use one of the medium size ones. Okay, so I just went ahead and tied that button with a little bit of the white baker's twine. I'm going to put some snail adhesive on one end of my banner and a little half a dimensional on the opposite end. And I can just get this lined up. Stick that down. And then I'm just going to use my Tombow Mono multi-glue. And I can just place that down over the sentiment banner. And I'm just going to hold that in place for a moment to make sure that it adheres properly. And here is my finished card. So I hope that you enjoyed today's video. Thanks so much for joining me. And until next week, happy stampin'. Bye-bye.